Greetings, family, and welcome to Us Lifting Us Economic Development Cooperative Presentation and Training. I'm your host, Brother DJ, along with Baba Hekima. Greetings, Baba Hekima. How you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, trying to stay dry.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's definitely coming down out there. Yeah, definitely coming down out there. And so, greetings to the family. Those of you who are already calling in, and those of you who are listening in all online from all over the world, Baba Hekima, along with myself, would like to give you greetings and welcome you to the Us Lifting Us Economic Development Cooperative Presentation and Training. This is a 2-hour broadcast, family, and it's in 2 parts. The first half of the broadcast from 9 to 10 is myself along with Baba Hekima going through a lot of the details about ULU, or Us Lifting Us as an organization, and also talking about the power of cooperative economics, or what we tend to refer to as within the ULU family as family-centered economics. And so that'll be the first half of our conversation from 9 to 10. And from 10 to 11, we'll be joined by 2 additional board members who will walk us through a document called the 10-Point Appeal and Plan for the New Black Economy. And that conversation will be about an hour as well. And so we certainly encourage all of our listeners to call into the broadcast and engage in the conversation. It's intended to be interactive. And the purpose of this broadcast tonight is to really give prospective ULU members, those who may not have yet joined the organization, an opportunity to hear about the power of cooperative economics and what ULU, or Us Lifting Us, can do for them as an individual, their family, and their community, and to be able to make an informed decision on whether or not to join this particular organization. So this is a call that we do every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, again, in an effort to familiarize prospective folks with our brand of Black economic development, cooperative economics, or family-centered economics. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Baba Hekima, before we get started?
Yes, I'd just like to remind everyone that from our website and our homepage, there are 3 videos on that homepage. The top video is about a 17-minute presentation of our basic plan. And I would encourage everyone to go through that. And if you've already gone through it, then this call will be much more meaningful for you because there will be context. If you have not gone through it before, then please, as soon as you can after this call, go through that 7-minute presentation. Below that video is a link to request additional information, and if you fill that little form out, you'll join our mailing list. But more importantly, you will receive our 2 basic documents, our operating agreement, our values and ethics document. You'll also be instructed to view our member owner list so you can get a sense of who we are. But I just encourage each and every one of you to go through that 17-minute presentation and request additional information.
Outstanding. And so, family, anytime you can be a part of the conversation, for those of you who are listening in online, by giving us a call at 319-527-6202. Again, that's 319-527-6202. And when you want to ask a question or give a comment, push the number 1 on your phone, push the number 1 on your keypad, and we'll open up your line to allow you an opportunity to ask a question or give a comment. If anything is not clear to you, we ask that you push the number 1 and ask us a question. Ask us to clarify some of the things that we may speak about that you may not be clear on, sure of, or may not, relatively make sense to you, and we'll try our best to answer that question and inform you, on the overall process of ULU membership. And so, again, family, it's intended to be an interactive conversation, so let's engage and enjoy the dialogue. Anything else, Baba Kima, before we get started?
No, that's it, brother.
Okay. Well, a lot has transpired over the course of the week within the mainstream political establishment, and there's no shortage of activity within Black America as well. But when it comes to Black economic empowerment, Black economic development, Baba Hekima, give us the ULU position on where we are and what it is that we must do, and what is it that brings people to this particular conversation from all over the world in an effort to really engage in this process called Us Lifting Us Economic Development Cooperative.
Well, thank you for the question, brother. And, of course, you summed it up. There's a lot going on. And part of what we are witnessing is a kind of how would I say it, less than comfortable position for most people on the planet. Monopoly capitalism is being squeezed. Some of the contradictions that we often speak of are showing themselves. And certainly there's a scramble in most places in the world for a new way of organizing the economic activity of communities and nations, and hopefully a new way of organizing trade and commerce globally. But certainly ULU comes at a time when, and in an environment where people are asking, what's the next step? What can we look forward to that may be more wholesome, fairer, juster? And so ULU comes out of that context. And there's different names for it. It's called the New Economies Movement, a sharing economy or sharing society. There are any number of names that people attach to. Democratic economic democracy is another term. And I want to stay there for a minute, because most people are for political democracy, and people will fight and die and kill for the right to be self-determined in a political sense. But most people don't even think about what it would mean to have economic democracy, where there wouldn't be dictators, because in this economy, there are certain forces and certain institutions that dictate economic policy, and it's just as certain as you would term or call out a dictator in a political sense. And so that's another term. And we fall into the category of a formation from the Black community, from the African perspective, of a model which speaks to this yearning of a better model in terms of economic activity, one that's fair, that's friendly to people and to the planet. And so that's the context out of which we come. And I had a conversation with an elder today out of Baltimore, and he picked up one of our flyers in a bookstore in Baltimore and called. And I'm not sure who put the flyer out. I may never know. But he mentioned that that all around the country, and he still travels, and he talked about the fact that there was almost common agreement among our people to the position of do for self. And he says that in past years, a lot of people wouldn't openly say that we must do for self. But his position is that there's general commonality around us doing for self. And I thought that was instructive because he followed it up by saying that whoever creates and put in place models that work for our people, his position is our people are ready to support it. But they want to see something, and obviously our people are going to test it. But I thought that was instructive because I think most people on the planet are ready for new models because the old models don't work. The disparity in terms of income, the income distribution, is criminal, and it looks that most people do not have a way or have not thought of a way to move beyond that. So that's the climate in which Ulu is formed, is created, and maybe it would be a good idea for us to kind of look at Ulu in its infancy and how it came to be. I'm not sure if that's where we should go from that question.
Well, I would agree with you that that would provide the perfect segue into the next aspect of the conversation is with that clear political intent. How did Ulu come about, and what is it designed to do for us as people of African descent?
Right. All right then. Well, of course, I think most of us would agree that that economic empowerment is at the top of everybody's agenda in terms of empowerment in the community, and that's been the case for several years. And so here in Atlanta, a handful of us came together in 2011 to form a think tank, a working group, determine what it is and what it was that we could do to meet that need and that expressed need on the part of our people. And after about a year of doing research, Us Lifting Us was born, initially as a C Corp, and then later on in June of 2013 as a limited liability company. Now, when we refer to Ulu as an organization, that's technically true, but for most people, if you say an organization, they solely think of a social organization or political organization, but Ulu is a business organization. Ulu is a limited liability company, and so I really want to stress that. And so in 2013, we created, with the assistance of a law firm here in Atlanta, still doing research, we brought to, and we're still bringing to our people, a legal structure, a business model that can accommodate thousands, tens of thousands, and millions of us, members of the LLC. Not only individuals, but members can be married couples, and real important, members can be institutions. There can be businesses, associations, churches, as long as it's a legal entity. And so Ulu, again, is a business organization, not a social organization or a political organization or fraternal organization. It is a business. In addition to members not only being individuals or institutions, members do not have to be U.S. citizens. So we have members outside of the U.S., but we're positioned where we can have members anywhere. Also, members in a limited liability company can acquire equity in the company and position themselves for a direct monetary benefit. And that's one of the things when we started out, we knew we had to answer the question, what's in it for me? yes, we want to strengthen the community, and most of the times we're asked to donate, and we do, and some of us still do, many of us still do. But wouldn't it be nice to have a scenario where you contributed money or your talent, your expertise, and when that paradigm, that program, that model was successful, not only would it benefit the community from a social standpoint, but there was the opportunity for some profit sharing that came back to you. We thought that was important to build into the process, and so that's, essentially what we did. On our presentation online, that 17-minute presentation that we talked about a little earlier, one of the things that we came up with in our initial presentation was an acronym called DAM, D-A-M. And most people conceptually can think of the process of building a dam so that the flow of the creek, the stream, the river could be blocked and create a reservoir for all the benefits that a reservoir provides. Electrical generation, electrical power generation, recreation, fishing, irrigation, water supply to a city, any number of benefits that a reservoir would provide after you created a dam. So we use the same acronym, DAM, and we when we say it stands for decisive action with money. So with decisive action with our money and our resources, we want to create a financial dam that creates a financial reservoir, and that reservoir would empower our communities economically. And so that's where we focused on. And then the job was, of course, creating the business model with the standards, the procedures, the protections from a business standpoint that would allow us to accomplish that goal. And, of course, when we talk about the reservoir or the dam and creating the reservoir that we would use to empower black communities and black nations, at least for those of us here in the U.S., we often refer to the more than $1 trillion a year that flows through our fingers. And so the dam is in the context of tapping into, diverting or redirecting a sizable percentage of that flow so that we could manage it, and it just wouldn't be going back out to other communities and other nations, that we would have the use of it to empower ourselves, our families, our communities. And just to give you a sense of, in the public, a sense of what could happen, if we were successful in creating a structure and a process, an infrastructure, business infrastructure, that will allow us to tap into that flow of more than $1 trillion and divert just 1%. Just 1%. That's $10 billion a year that would be in our reservoir. Or let's say 1/2 of 1%. That's $5 billion. So what we have generated and what we have created and what we are perfecting is a systematic way of tapping into that flow, utilizing decisive action with money or DAM, and we can discuss more practical aspects of it. But the goal, of course, is to redirect a sizable percentage of that flow for community development. Now, a lot of times when we go into a business for ourselves, we tap into that flow for our personal development, our family development. But rarely does that translate into community empowerment. And so that's essentially what we did. Again, in 2013 as a limited liability company, and today we have hundreds of members in several countries and scattered throughout the U.S. But I guess to stick a pin in it, everything that we have done and everything that we will do is for the economic empowerment of our communities, our peoples, our nations, and yes, the factor of receiving a benefit directly is a part of it, but the primary goal is group empowerment. For group empowerment, we feel that group ownership is a key, and that's the other component, group ownership. But I'll stop at that point, and hopefully I haven't run too far afield.
No, not at all. And so for those who, are hearing, this conversation thus far, they're hearing that Ulu is good for them and their family and their community. They're learning about cooperative economics, family-centered economics, and they have questions about what are some of the examples or working models that we may be basing Ulu off of. Are there any examples of success that any large groups of people have had under the banner of cooperative economics, maybe lifting themselves up out of a an economic oppressed or subjugated position that we could point to?
Yes, there are a good many models. In Canada, there are models. Even in the U.S., there are burgeoning models. One that people point to is the Evergreen Cooperative in Cleveland. In Italy, there's a very prominent sector, cooperative group ownership sector. But on almost every place in the world, there are examples. We had an Ulu member, and we've got to reach back out to him, Dr. Wawa, W-A-W-A, lives in Houston, Texas. And he joined with us more than a year ago. And he's from the Cameroons. And he, as a government official, wrote the enabling legislation for cooperative societies in the Cameroon, and also worked with our brothers and sisters in the agricultural sector to build and to sustain cooperatives. But again, throughout the planet, one of the darlings of the co-op movement is in Spain. It's called Mondragon, M-O-N-D-R-A-G-O-N. There's some similarities between Mondragon and Ulu, but it's not exactly the same. But this is a group ownership model that started with 5 students and a Catholic priest in 1956, I think is the year, and started with a paraffin heater that couldn't heat but one room. It couldn't even heat a whole house. But they sold that and began to manufacture other things, and they have grown to where today they do in excess of $20 billion a year in gross revenue. It may be down a little bit because of the downturn in the global economy. They've created more than 100,000 new jobs for their people. Not only do they have factories throughout the world, but they own banks, insurance companies. They own the largest supermarket chain in that part of Spain. They have housing complexes, research laboratories, health facilities, retirement plans for their people. But their most precious achievement, from my perspective, is that at a point they were persecuted and had to go underground to keep their native tongue alive, the Basque language. And today, because of their economic success, they teach their native tongue in their universities and in their nurseries. And so they were able to use economic success to fortify their culture. That's just one example. Of course, there are others. And we had the benefit of networking with two people who have gone to Spain and who have gone through their training program. And but we, not only Ulu, but many co-ops draw inspiration from Mondragon and from other successful cooperatives. And of course, there is the sharing of information that is consistent with cooperative cultures throughout the world. So there are examples. But again, remember that as African people in the West, we have always been involved with co-ops ourselves, but not on a large scale. So it's not foreign. It's just that we haven't thought about group ownership being structured for large-scale development and large-scale empowerment objectives. It's always, for the most part, been on a minor scale. Now, we also have the benefit here in Georgia. As a matter of fact, here in East Point, Georgia, where ULU is headquartered, there's also another institution, the Federation of Southern Cooperatives. And this is a umbrella group for black cooperatives throughout the South. And so there's a long history of producer co-ops, farming co-ops, credit unions, and other collectives that are today still, and this is 50 years in development, 50 years. They're just now celebrating their 50th year of supporting black farmers, aiding farmers in their quest to hold on to their property in terms of black land loss. So there are any number of examples. However, a very critical shift in our thinking, from my perspective, needs to take place. We normally think of enterprise from a private perspective. Earlier, you talked about our theme, family-centered economics. Most of our economic activity is individually centered economics, or if not individually centered economics, certainly on a small scale, maybe a small corporation. But what we are advocating in ULU is an appreciation for the value of group-owned, family-owned, cooperative economics, group-owned economics, along with what we do from our traditional perch of entrepreneurship and black business ownership. We think it would be more appropriate to have added to that mix thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of brothers and sisters, both as individuals and organizations, including businesses, to also create a mutual platform, a group-owned platform, so that we could bring more dollars to bear, more skills to bear, but more importantly, our central planning, a way to control or to steer the economic activities in our communities and link them to other communities and our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean, Central and South America, Africa, and Europe. And so this whole thing of cooperative economics, to one scale or another, we've been involved in. And, of course, we can always point back to our ancient cultures that were collectivist more than being dependent upon, individuals, the village concept. So it's not foreign to us, except that in recent years, it's been foreign to us. But there are many examples throughout the world.
There sure is, and definitely appreciate that summary. You spoke to some of the practical aspects of Ulu, some of the supportive history in terms of practical examples that we have done in formations that currently exist that really give, I guess you can say, amplification to what it is that we are building here as Africans in the United States. But when it comes to Ulu specifically, you talk about the power of group ownership. Can you really, for folks who may not be familiar with it, they hear cooperative economics all the time, during Kwanzaa, and when it's not the week of Kwanzaa, we hear this phrase of cooperative economics, but you challenge that and you put forth the notion of group ownership. Can you really, for those who may not be familiar with that, explain in relative detail how does the power of group economics or group ownership come about?
Yes. I remember, Brother DJ, there was an esteemed panel of black scholars and leaders from around the country that were assembled here in Atlanta. And from the audience, you asked the question, what's your definition of cooperative economics? And you and I were kind of amazed at the answer we got. And the answer was essentially, can't we all just get along? In other words, we should support each other, And you looked at me, and I looked at you, and we talked about it afterwards, and we didn't see any power in that. We saw righteousness in it. Yes, I should support the brother, sister in the community who's in business, and we do. And we've always done it. Maybe not at the level that we could, but we've always supported each other. Sometimes we hear people saying we don't support each other. That's not true. We support each other in degrees that we don't often appreciate. But when you talk about cooperative economics from our standpoint, or what we call family-centered economics, I would ask brothers and sisters to put on their thinking cap. Think of a sector or a section of a community. Let's say it's in Philadelphia, it's in Baltimore, it's in Atlanta, Chicago, wherever, where the community is predominantly black. And what happens then from a collective standpoint or group ownership standpoint, let's say that there are any number of black-owned businesses in that area. But predominantly, or for the most part, it's as is the situation in most cases. The Arabs, the Koreans, the Jews, other people really dominate economically. Yes, we have businesses there, but we don't have power. We don't have economic power, and then we don't have the benefits of economic power as it applies to other areas of social life. But let's think now of Ulu or some other group-owned enterprise with resources coming into that same community and now add in additional businesses and in some cases buying out existing businesses. But the community knows that these businesses are different. These businesses are group-owned, co-op businesses, and that anybody in the community can be an owner of those businesses. And so you begin to have a situation where here is a black business, we support that, but here's another black business that's a co-op. The workers control it and manage it and run it day to day. However, the ownership group may be 1,000 people that live in the community. A pastor of this church might be an owner. A policeman might be an owner. A store owner or another business owner also owns equity in the business, and a teacher may own it. Any number of people in the community, and so all of our businesses have the additional benefit of being open to ownership by people in the community. And so think of a situation where after some time, a good number of the businesses in the community are collectively owned, and it's known. They have their markers. So everybody knows that this is an Ulu-owned business, and not only do people who live in the community own it, people around the country and around the globe who are Africans are also part owners. And the idea is that we would proliferate businesses that are collectively owned in that community. Those businesses would be good citizens. They would deliberately and go to the nth degree to do business with other black businesses in contractual or non-contractual ways. The businesses would also contribute to charity, and the business will be run well and give good service. The goal would be to reach a tipping point where that community and the residents of that community came to feel, to know, to sense that this is our turf. This is not a turf that the Koreans dominate. This is not a turf that the Jews dominate. This is not a turf that other European Americans dominate. That's not to say that everything in there we control, but we control enough of it so that everybody knows that's our turf. Not only do we know it, but Koreans on the street in Seoul know it as well. So they know to bypass that particular area with their schemes of penetration and exploitation. Everybody knows it. But the important thing, when I talked earlier about Mondragon and the fact that they were able to save their language, think of what it would mean for now children, young adults, everybody in the community to sense that they were in control. And we talk about the benefit of dignity. It's a greater position in terms of dignity to live and work and socialize and play or whatever else in an area that you know that you dominate, you and your people dominate. And so we want to create community after community after community that we economically dominate from the standpoint of us owning those businesses together, aggregating our resources, not only our money, but our talent and our energy and our ingenuity, and then connecting those communities one to the other, and then connecting those communities globally. And so when we talk about cooperative economics and the power of it, that's what we're talking about. Now, obviously, you start where you start. You start small, and then you have the capacity to acquire bigger and bigger industries. And you want to create a scenario where food production, clothing, housing, any number of areas of vital supply to your community, you gain a foothold, and you parlay that but there's no sector of the economy that we should look at where the opportunity avails itself, we take advantage of it. So that's what we mean when we talk about cooperative economics and the power of such. I'll just say this and I'll end. It's one thing to be involved in business and business development and excellence in business activity. It's altogether a different scenario or a different requirement when you also think of building and sustaining an economy. So it's not just business activity, it's actually recreating part of what we saw in the era of the Black Wall Streets, where we dominated in a particular area. And so I won't go into that, but I'll just say that in addition to business excellence, we want to add to that the thinking, the planning, the technology, the management, the building of systems, and models that will allow us to build and sustain an economy that becomes global. And certainly, if we're not thinking global, we're going to make a mistake, an error.
Definitely. And again, family, the call-in number is 319-527-6202. That's 319-527-6202. And at any time you may have a question or a comment, simply push the number 1 on your phone, push the number 1 on your keypad, and we'll open up your line to, again, allow you an opportunity to ask a question or give a comment. Probably, Kima, in the 15 minutes we have left remaining, if you don't mind, give us some of the parameters for membership within Us Lifting Us. What are some of the things that are required for membership? How much is membership? And just give us some of the some of the details of what that process looks like.
Well, we're in the formative stages of our development as a limited liability company, and we're really eager to take on new members. However, we want those members to fully understand what they're being asked to get involved with. Again, we'll repeat that ULU is not just an organization. ULU is a business organization. Membership, well, let me say this. Membership essentially is as a partner in a limited liability company. So when a brother or sister or a brother or sister who heads up a business or some other organization applies for ULU membership, what they're asking to do is to join with others as equal partners in a business venture. Now, there is a cost to join, and from a monetary standpoint, it's just $50 a year to be an active member. So $50 from a price standpoint. Also, a person must fill out an application and an agreement. And so you're not only filling out an application, there's certain things that you're agreeing to as well. There's several things that you agree to. One of the things is that you agree and affirm that you're a person of Black African descent. You also agree to be bound by the governing documents of the business organization. And that's a 22-page operating agreement. And it's very important because that is the structural guide. In a typical organization, you call it a bylaw, but in an LLC, it's called an operating agreement. And so you're bound by that. And as a member, you participate in the election of a board of directors. There's a 9-member board of directors and elected by the membership. And but members also use their vote to ratify any changes to the operating agreement. So it's truly a democratic process. One member, one vote with elected leadership. And that's important. One member, one vote with elected leadership. And you can never acquire more than one vote. Now, there can be differences in terms of equity contributions, and let's talk about that. An equity position in ULU is any money that you put in ULU other than your first $50. Any money. It's accredited to your equity account. Once your equity account reaches $1,000, then you're issued an ownership certificate and you qualify for profit sharing, there's some time considerations, but that's the essential requirement to qualify for profit sharing. What I mean by profit sharing, when Ulu's businesses, and as Ulu businesses mature and begin to create a surplus or a profit, part of that goes back to the members in the form of a direct return, or what's generally called a dividend. And we think that can be attractive. And the reason we think it can be attractive, and it should be attractive, and is built to be attractive, is because in Ulu, unlike a typical business, there are no owners or owner group at the top that takes the lion's share of the profits for themselves. And so there's a fairer distribution process for the owners, the group owners. And so $1,000 per unit of ownership. And at this point, there is no limit to the number of units that a member can purchase. Remember that a member can be an association, can be a church or church denomination or sorority, as long as it's a legal entity. So some members will never acquire more than one unit. Other members will acquire a number of units. What's the difference? Even though we have one vote, but in terms of unit acquisition, when profits are divided, when surplus is divided, it's divided equally among each share or each unit. Brother DJ, if you had 10 units, then you would get 10 distributions. If I had 1 unit, I'd get 1 distribution. So obviously, because you put in 10 times more money than I did, you're going to have 10 times the benefit from a financial standpoint. But to give you a sense of scale, for every 1,000 units secured by our members, that's $1 million. We are positioning ourselves where we can do that over and over and over again. In time, we clearly intend to have more than 1 million units secured by our members. 1 million units at $1,000 each is $1 billion. And so we think that given the proper building of the foundation, we can do that even over and over again. The unique thing that we challenge brothers and sisters to understand that the money that we aggregate in Ulu, we do not use to give loans to people who want to go into business, and we do not give grants to worthy programs in the community. The only thing that we do, in addition to funding administration, is we start run for-profit businesses structured as co-ops. Now, once those businesses mature and begin to generate a profit, then those businesses give to charity. In the future, we will own financial institutions. We'll own banks. We'll own insurance companies. And we'll get later on in the business of providing financial services to needed businesses and institutions in the community. But to get started, all the revenue that we aggregate will go to building for-profit enterprises in our community, creating thousands of jobs, hundreds of thousands of jobs eventually, and all of those businesses then owned by the collective. So $50 yearly membership. Members can come from anywhere in the world, so we have members in 7 or 8 countries, but that can be anywhere. And members, and only members, can acquire equity. And we're not offering units of Ulu ownership to the general public. It's only to our members, and a person must be approved as a member. Let me just say this. There are 3 requirements for membership. The first thing is to fill out an application and agreement. Second thing is to pay you $50, and then you pass examination. You'll be vetted in terms of us at least knowing who you are, who sent you. It may not be, thorough in the nth degree, but we certainly take the opportunity to weigh who is applying for ULU membership. And not every brother and sister will be approved. Certainly it's important that people come with a spirit of group first, of what is benefiting for the collective. So those are some of the areas.
Okay, outstanding. We do have a caller, Baba Hekima. We'll go ahead and open up the line at this time, 4592. 4592, your line is open. Welcome to the broadcast.
Yes, greetings, Brother DJ. Greetings, Baba Hekima. This is Maisha in California. How are you?
Whoa.
Greetings.
It's beautiful to hear your
How you
voice.
doing?
Yes.
Great.
It's been a while.
Great. How are you? I know, it's been a long while, but I've been thinking of you all. I wanted to call in tonight and, definitely support you. As you know, I have been a supporter, and everything you're saying is absolutely 100%. It's something that we've got to do immediately, something we've got to do not only for ourselves, but for our current generation. So, and the principle of looking for future generations, even, to come, and improving our own lives here. We've got to definitely come together as a collective, and your solution is absolutely hands down the best out there that I've heard. I just wanted to pose some questions, though, to both of you and get some feedback on, I'm glad that you all went into the history of some things that have been successful, but recently I saw a documentary on on Oklahoma, the Black Wall Street, and Tulsa, and I just wanted you to weigh in on that, like the fact that, because that's probably something that arises in people's psyche, and, thinking about, okay, we're dealing with a currency that we don't necessarily control all the dynamics of, and we're also dealing with, people, we're in a country that can actually, do you think that something like Tulsa could be repeated, that sort of thing, that, if you could weigh in on that. And then another documentary I just saw this week as well was something about the environment and the fact that in about 30 years, scientists are saying in 2048 that there's going to be a completely fishless ocean, as in, we're up against a lot of different elements here, so if you could actually weigh in on these things, that would be great. So the ocean is one, the environment overall is under siege, and, so many other elements, the air, pollution, all that sort of thing. So what's your take on how all of this ties into, us organizing, and how your organization views these things and how to deal with that?
Yeah, powerful questions.
Thank you so much for the question.
You want to
go
first,
definitely.
DJ?
Well, I was actually gonna hand it off to you, if you don't mind, because I'm not familiar with that particular study in terms of the environment or the fish, but I'll be more than happy to comment on the history in terms of Tulsa. That's because that's a question that we get oftentimes, mainly when we do face-to-face presentations, and it's come up on our call from time to time, but it's something that we know we have to contend with for all of the reasons that you stated and more. The fact that we don't control the currency, it really means that we have to do this. ULU has to come into existence. I remember having a conversation years ago with a brother who said, well, DJ, you can't go to war with the people who control your water. And my response to him was that the fact that they control your water means you have to go to war, So it's just in, I guess, how you look at it. But at the end of the day, we know that there are, we do face a formidable adversary, but we always, within the ULU model, look at the power within our culture, as the thing that really puts us in a sphere where there's no competition. We're not competing against Europeans in that sense. We're competing with who we were yesterday and being better than that person that we were, yesterday, today. And so with that being said, the thing that we focus on is, again, the power of our culture and creating value around that. And so when Ulu is really at its apex, we are in a position to we are in a position to create value from within our culture so that we no longer desire the things of another people, but we desire our interests, our focus is on the things that we control, the things that we produce, the things that we are able to harness ourselves to create, a better reality for our children and our children's children. And so you can't do that without the fundamental aspect of love being in place for yourself and for your people. And that is what's going to cause us, as Ulu members, to really galvanize around this family-centered economic movement. There's a lot that I can say, that probably would be best addressed offline. Maisha, you and I talk, and so I'll be happy to kind of pick up where I'm leaving off now and then go into some of the details of how we, protect ourselves from a more practical aspect around the culture as well.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Let me add to that. We don't often talk about it, but we're going to have to deal with barter and trade, and we're going to have to deal with alternative currencies as well. And there are several communities in the U.S. that are experimenting with alternative currency. But the atmosphere, in this era of global communication and almost instant information, it's a lot different than what happened, in the 20s and 30s and at the turn of the century in terms of communities being isolated. And so it's a little different climate. But we have to be security-minded from a currency standpoint and from a safety standpoint as well. But I think that we would be infinitely more concerned about the planet from a collectivist standpoint than from a personal finance perspective. So hopefully the collective would be in tune to some of the things that are your concerns, because we use the term family-centered economics because that's truly where we're going with this. We want to create a wholesome environment for the family going forward. So thank you for chiming in. It's good hearing your voice.
Thank you for that, Baba Hakima and Baba DJ. And great to hear your voices as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Definitely. And so, Baba Hakima, we're right at the top of the hour. Go ahead and give us some closing comments. How do folks connect with us as Zulu members, the pertinent information that they need to know to make that informed decision, and, how to stay abreast of some of the developments that are going on within the Ulu network.
Yes, I would encourage everyone, if you're not already on our mailing list, go to our website, go to our homepage. On the top right-hand side, there's a link that says free report. Just order that free report, get on our mailing list, and go through our website and study. And when you feel comfortable, click join, fill out your application, click pay/contribute, and make your $50 payment. Now, our website, of course, is usliftingus.com, usliftingus.com. Our email address is info@usliftinus.com. And there's a form on our website, feedback form, that you can use to reach out to us as well. Now, this call is every Thursday evening, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. What I charge and request of each person on the line, come back next week with a friend, with a comrade. three-way them in to this call, or better yet, organize a conference call, or bring people over to the house and with some chips and beer or whatever, listen as a group afterwards, have a discussion. Because I think all of us are responsible for thinking through what kind of economic system are we going to bring to fruition that would allow us to be more secure in the future. That's all of our responsibility. So the other thing is that this recording is archived, and so you can come back to our website, click Ulu Radio, and you can listen to this. You can forward this broadcast to people you know. So I'm encouraging all of us to be an army of one and bring as many people as you can to this call so that we can be confronted with the prospects of a new economic paradigm, a new economic model that can take us to places that we've only dreamed of. And that would be all that I would have, Brother DJ.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Baba Hekima. And again, thank you, Sister Maisha, for your question. And look forward to speaking with you as a follow-up offline. Thank you for listening, family, to the first half of our broadcast. At this time, we'll go ahead and take a short break, and a really short break, as we're kind of running behind schedule, and we want to start the second half of the conversation. But when we get back on the other side, we'll be joined by two additional board members who will walk us through our 10-point appeal and plan for the new. All right, family, and we're back, and we're joined by two additional board members. We have on the line Sister Nana and Sister Shanyere. Greetings. How y'all doing?
Greetings.
Greetings,
Brother
DJ.
I am doing well, thank you.
Likewise, how you doing?
And so, I'm well, and these two outstanding sisters will walk us through our 10-point appeal and plan for building a new black economy. Take it away.
Thank you so much. Sister Nana, it's good to be on with you this evening.
Likewise. I appreciate every opportunity that I have to share this format with you.
Yes. So, of course, sometimes I'm not on for the entire 9 o'clock hour, but like always, I have to thank Baba Hekima and Brother DJ for that hour. It's very powerful, and for everyone that called in, adding to the conversation. We're always appreciative of that. Just like Brother DJ said, this is the 10 o'clock hour where we really expand the conversation around Ulu. Of course, in the first hour, you got a dynamic conversation about many of the fundamentals of Ulu, and then just going into explaining the concepts, discussing the reasons why we must have an Ulu or an us lifting us. And again, the second hour is we use our 10-point appeal and plan as a base for this conversation, like I said, to expand around us lifting us. So I'll just recap on some things just in case some people are joining us fresh at 10 o'clock. Us lifting us, when we say us lifting us, we are describing an institution whose mission is to build, maintain, and pass to future generations the actual machinery of true economic empowerment for our people. So when you hear us lifting us, it's more than just a limited liability company. It's more than just a co-op. It really, truly is family-centered economics. And just like they talked about on the last hour, with that concept and creating a system around that concept, the possibilities really are endless. We really are talking about the creation of a new black economy, a global economy, a sub-economy, if you will. So I want to give the telephone number very quickly.
For those of you who may be listening in on the internet side and want to call in and join the conversation, our call-in number is 319-527-6202. Again, that's 319-527-6202. Now, if this is your first time listening in, you want to make sure that you visit our website, and that's usliftingus.com. Again, usliftingus.com. And, of course, have a conversation after the call with the person who may have invited you. But give us a chance, as far as our website goes, it's a lot of information. You'll be happy that you visited. Again, if this is your first time being on the call, we want to introduce you in that way. So moving forward, and you also press 1 on your phone, family. Press 1 on your phone to be acknowledged. We will open up your line and you can join the conversation, because this is more than just about us talking with one another. This is really about having that international dialogue as family. So the 10-point appeal and plan, this is something that can be found at our website before you even enter the site. You see this first, right? So we're going to spend some time, the majority of the time, we're actually going to spend going over the ULU 10-point appeal and plan, and we're on point 3 for tonight. So those of you who are familiar, every Thursday night, we go over and drill down with one of the 10 points, and so tonight we're on point 3. That'll be the majority of the call, and then we have a treat for you all. We're going to put some more flavor to the 10 o'clock hour by adding our member spotlight. And so those of you members who are on the call and you're listening in, I'm sure that's something that you will really enjoy. And you make sure to send us a message, info@usliftingus.com, in case you want to be spotlighted. So tonight we have one of our members, Wonisha Orgill. We will be spotlighting Wonisha toward the end of the call, and so, just look forward to that. And without any further ado, I'll go ahead and read the 10-point appeal and plan, and then Sister Nana and I can get into this discussion along with those of you who call in or, press 1 on your phone and join the conversation. So the ULU 10-point appeal and plan for the new Black economy states this: current events and the general unrest of the times call for radical change. The following points provide practical and necessary steps for a new and positive existence for us today and for future generations. Point 1, as Black people, we take full responsibility for the economic destiny of our communities and nations. Point 2, Black persons and Black institutions, especially the Black church, join together as members in a large-scale, cooperatively owned business enterprise to pool our resources. Point 3, this cooperatively owned business enterprise is reflective of our unique culture and interest in the world. Point 4, the governance and legal form of the cooperative accommodate democratic principles: 1 member, 1 vote with elected leadership. Point 5, only members of the cooperative and not the public have the opportunity to secure ownership units or equity in the business enterprise with the potential to amass billions of dollars for community development. Point 6, the cooperative focuses on opening and operating businesses in local communities that 1, provide needed goods and services, 2, create new jobs, 3, stimulate additional business activity, and 4, yields a fair profit. Point 7, the cooperative is driven to duplicate and expand into hundreds and eventually thousands of businesses, all owned and controlled by the collective. Point 8, the net profits from overall cooperative success are used to 1, reinvest for the distribution of grants and endowments, and 3, direct returns or dividends to member owners of the cooperative. Point 9, the large-scale cooperatively owned or group-owned business enterprise functions as a catalyst and central element in building and sustaining the new Black economy, one that gives power to our people. Point 10, Us Lifting Us Economic Development Cooperative, LLC, serves as the aforementioned model. And as a special note, it says these 10 points form the basis for Black economic empowerment. The security and welfare of our people starts with our determination to control the economics of our communities and nations. And then we go on to quote, Black people and Black people alone hold the key to the gateway leading to their freedom. That quote is from the Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey, 1923. Very, very powerful quote. Every time I read it, it just really, really puts into perspective what we've accomplished thus far by building this platform of Us Lifting Us, and it just gives you that fuel to keep going because it's so clear what we have the opportunity to do and really what we have to do, right? So I'm going to go ahead and read the point that we went over last week, which is point 2, and then we will dig right into point 3 for tonight. It says Black persons and Black institutions, especially the Black church, join together as members in a large-scale cooperatively owned business enterprise to pool our resources. And I'm sure that was a very, very good conversation. I was not on for that one. And tonight, again, point 3 says this cooperatively owned business enterprise is reflective of our unique culture and interest in the world. So let's really hone in on that. And I'll bring Sister Nanana in because I have some questions I'd like to pose. And I want to start with this one. Why is it important for us to have a business enterprise that reflects our unique culture?
Well, thank you so much for the question, Sister Shay. And before I give my thoughts on that, I just want to give a shout out and a thank you to Baba Hakima and to Brother DJ for the excellent dialogue in the first hour, as well as to those who called in and asked questions to help stimulate that discussion. I really appreciate it, having the opportunity to listen to that. And your question is an excellent one for us to start out with. Why is it important for us to have business enterprises that reflect our culture? And that's something that we might not often think about. Unfortunately for us as people of Black African descent, we have been trained not to even think about the businesses that are in our communities and in our neighborhoods that supply what we believe to be taking care of our needs and our wants. And so the way I'll answer that question is by proposing that we envision that we imagine a situation whereby we have full opportunity to have goods and services that are provided for us by us, and the impact that would have on our psyche, how we see ourselves, and on future generations. My feeling is that one of the major reasons why this is important is because it positions us in such a way, when we have business enterprises that reflect our culture, it positions us in such a way that we can actually craft and develop the history that we are actually building our history by doing that, because it puts us in a situation so that we determine what the products are, the services are that are going to be provided, and we supply the ingenuity that goes into creating those products and those services. And that in and of itself creates a legacy for us to pass on generationally. And so it's important because it's a way of us literally preserving who we are as a people and passing that on, passing that down to our children, as well as creating that cycle where the money stays within our community and we feed and support each other in that financial circle.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. It makes me think of on the last call, we had our sister Maisha to call in, and she asked a question. And oftentimes we talk so much about money, and she talked about currency, and true to form, when we talk about family-centered economics, creating a legacy, when we talk about those terms, money seems to just float away from me. If we're not talking about currency, then we're really not hitting the nail on the head, because what we are literally creating those currents, our love, our energy, our building up of one another, that's our currency. That's our real currency. So even beyond the barter and exchange, beyond the money for sure, we have to be strategic, right, as a people and as an organization, as us lifting us. And like I said earlier, an institution, we have to be strategic about making sure our thrust is that we put the value back in one another. Us lifting us, the name is, it says it very clear to people. But I just wanted to put that out there, that the history you're talking about creating, the family-centeredness of Ulu is what creates that currency. We are our currency. Before I go on to ask the next question, I do want to give the family our phone number again, just in case you are on the internet side or you're just calling in. The number is 319-527-6202. Again, 319-527-6202. Also, you press 1 on your phone. So that's the way you get into the conversation. You press 1 and make sure you're not on mute so we can hear you speaking. But so to take the conversation further, and Brother DJ, I know you'll let me know if someone calls in, we talked about, in point 3, we talked about our unique culture, and you spoke on that. I'm not sure that we're always really understanding or really thinking about it when we talk about culture. So, Sister Nanana, what is culture?
That is that's a powerful, the answer to that question is powerful, and I don't claim to have the full and complete scope of the answer, but what I will share with you from my knowledge bank is that culture, very simply stated, it's a people's way of life. That is how they go about doing things. And the way that they do things, or the way that we do things, because we're talking about us, reflects the value system, the ethics and the values that we have. And I believe that is true with any culture. If you look at the way a certain group of people goes about doing things, how they interact with each other, how they relate to each other, that tells you what their value system and what their the basis of their ethics. Culture is something that is passed on generationally, and it's passed on through what's written. It's passed on through music, through the way that people dress. It's passed on through religion, through food. It's passed on through the institutions that are built and the customs that are passed on, particularly customs that relate to child rearing and customs that relate to marriage, customs that relate to how women relate to each other, customs around how men relate to each other. All of that is part of culture. And we have a very rich culture. Unfortunately, for many of us, we have been positioned in such a way that we have had to struggle to be aware of that, to carry it forward. But we have a culture. Our culture was the first culture. We were the first people on the planet. And so our culture is one of valuing human life and of understanding that there is a supreme being that we interact with that guides everything, and of being in tune with nature and being in tune with the earth. I was listening to the first hour when the sister made the comment that there's some data out now saying that by the year 2048 that very possibly we will have a fishless ocean. And what is the culture that has perpetuated that has allowed that to happen? What is the culture that has said that it was okay to poison the water to the extent that all the fish would die? That is not the culture that we stem from, but the culture that we have been forced into and that we have been exposed to. So, you know, that's a lot of verbiage around answering your question, but it's the culture is how you do things, and we've had guidance around that for, you know, as far back when you go back to the virtues of Ma'at that tell us basically how we are to be in relationship with each other, with the Supreme Being, and with the earth.
Wow, thank you so much for that. And that was exactly what I was looking, you know, to hear you do. You know, that's not some people think so simplistically about that, and that's fine as long as we're clear. And I think that's where the problem really lies, just being clear about what that means, what that word means. Brother DJ, do we have anyone holding?
No, not at this time, but we do have the sister for the spotlight on. Not sure when you were looking at go into that part of the broadcast, but she's on hold, but no other callers.
Okay, thank you. And so I want to segue into a question. I want to ask you a question about where Ulu comes in, and we talk about answering our needs. You know, as a family and as a community, a lot of times the lines get blurred between needs and wants. And so getting into that conversation, I'm just going to ask you to talk a little bit about that. But from the previous question, we were talking about culture. I would think it's safe to say that our culture has severely been damaged. Would you agree?
I would agree. Yeah.
I would agree. And how does that show up when we talk about not being able to distinguish between needs and wants? How do you think that shows up there?
Well, what I can say from my observation, how our culture has been damaged and how that relates to needs and wants. One of the things that is very, very unique, that is uniquely African, is that we understood that we did not exist in this world as an individual. The whole concept of individuality is a Western culture concept. And so when that was forced upon us, that really took us miles and miles away from what our basic cultural teachings were, and that is that what affects one of us affects all of us, and that what I do on this side of the globe, what I do to the environment, affects something that's happening in the environment on the other side. Now, how does that all relate to needs and wants as well? The culture that we are in, this Western culture that we have been struggling to survive in for so many years, we have been exposed to a constant bombardment of information via the media, via advertising, and via other means that dictates to us and that, works on our brains and our psyches to put in front of us what we mistakenly think are important things for us to pursue. Popular culture is telling us how to dress. Popular culture or Western culture is telling us how to interact with each other. It's telling us how to value ourselves and how to value another person based on the size of their paycheck or what kind of vehicle they drive. That's all around wants. That has nothing to do with basic human needs of food, clothing, shelter, of having interaction with other human beings, not being isolated from other individuals. And so, yes, there is great confusion around that because we don't understand what needs are, and that by coming together and by pooling all of our resources and by working together, that needs can be met for everyone, and that all of these miscellaneous and extraneous wants that are put out there for us, that these are simply things to distract us and to prevent us from being the true leaders that we are and the true spiritual beings that we really are. So I hope I haven't gone too far afield on answering that question, but there's definitely a difference between wants and needs, and particularly our young people are literally bombarded all day, every day through their exposure to technology and many other things that tell them what their needs are.
Yep. I'm glad that's a question that I asked. You really rounded that out. I appreciate it. I'm sure the family appreciates it as well. Before we go further, I would like to, what do you think, Sister Nana? Should we go ahead and step into the member spotlight? Because our dear sister Juanisha is on the line?
I would say yes. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's not keep her waiting. And I think this is, if I could just say so, this is a very special member spotlight, because this is the debut, if you will. This is the first member spotlight that we're having, and so. I appreciate her being available, and I'm looking forward to many member spotlights to come in the future. I really project that we're going to have members identifying themselves and stepping up and saying that they would like to have the opportunity to be in the spotlight. But sure, let's go ahead and open the line for Sister Juanisha and have her come into the circle and share with us.
Awesome. Thank you. Now, Sister Juanisha, your line is open. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, how are you doing?
Hello. Doing good. Good to hear your voice. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good.
I'm excited
Thank you for being
here.
Good. So you're debuting the member spotlight. So you setting it off.
I know. This is so exciting. Like I'm so excited to be on with you guys. I listen in when I can, and this is a great moment for me. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, you're welcome, and thank you for being available and for wanting to be on. Of course, Juanisha is not only a member of Us Lifting Us, she is also on our member committee. Now, are you a co-chair of the member committee?
Yes, I'm on the membership committee. Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. And I know last week, before I go further, let me say this. Let me give a little, give the family a reason as to why the member spotlight is important. We, for some time, have marveled at our member list. When we look at our list and we see the list of individuals who are a part of Us Lifting Us, it's an amazing feeling to look and just see all of the wealth. When you look at that list, we have different people, like I said, all over the world, all different types of industries, all different types of folks. And so it's really, really special to make sure we let the world know. We have these conversations about ULU and the concept around ULU, what it is, but we've not really delved into talking about who our members really are. And last week, I know you were down with a couple other ULU members for the Pan-African Festival in Macon. Is that correct?
Yes. We had our 21st annual Pan-African Festival that's hosted by the Tubman Museum here in Macon. And I found out that the Tubman Museum is one of the largest African-American museums in the United States. I think but now it may be second to a museum in Washington. But, they focus on African-American art, history, and culture, which is something, phenomenal to have in, little old Macon.
Absolutely. Well, those of us who really are, from Georgia, who have been here for a very long time, we understand how big Little Macon really is. So I appreciate you. I know I couldn't make it down, but I definitely appreciate you bringing that festival to our attention and making sure, that a group of us were down there.
Yes, and I appreciate, everyone that came down and supported the love that, everyone showed out there, being amongst, the other vendors that were out there with all their products that they were selling, all the clothing, the different products, perfumes, lotions, food. I mean, it was a great experience, and I'm so glad that ULU could be a part of that, because it speaks to what we are about,
Yep.
So I just want to thank you guys for coming down and sharing that experience with us.
Understood. Absolutely. Absolutely. And when we're talking about the types of events, that is fitting for Ulu to be at. That's another thing, members. Those of you out there who have events where Ulu needs to be represented, talk to us about it, and let's see how we can support you from down here in Atlanta as far as the board. Most of the board is here in Atlanta, that's right. But in reference to us lifting us and you being a member, just wanting to spotlight who you are, tell us a little bit more about you and what it was about us lifting us that made you become a member.
Okay, well, I am a mother of 3, and, just being a mother and being aware of the times and thinking towards the future where my children will be, our economy definitely stood out for me. Where, how will my children, care for themselves? What, how will they fare in the world? And coming across us within us that was talking about, providing needed goods and services and creating jobs and stimulating business for our people. It just clicked to me that, this is something I should be a part of, because this is something that could grow and be available for when my children are adults in this world, competing for jobs and, just being able to just live a comfortable life where we are. So that's kind of how, I came across Ulu. And, of course, my husband was the one that kind of brought it to me. And as I was reading over it, I told him, I was like, yeah, like this is, I want to know more. Like we've got to learn more. So we went to your website. We looked at the presentation, and we said, "Yep, this is definitely a solution to fix, what is going on within our community, and we definitely want to be a part of it."
Awesome, I appreciate that. Sister Nana, are there any questions or you want to jump in here?
Well, yeah, thank you. First of all, I would just like to say, Sister Juanisha, thank you so very much for opening up the members spotlight for us. We're just really pleased to have you on here. And what I would ask you to share is around some of what you see as the basic values and goals of Ulu, and how you see that being in concert with some of your basic goals and values as well. Could you speak to that?
Yeah. I know my values are towards, anything that's family-oriented. Like I said, I'm a mother of 3. I come from a huge family, and I'm so connected with my community here in Macon. As I drive around, every day, and I see, in our community, we have, boarded up buildings, dilapidated houses, and, just our people just kind of idle on the street, and it does something to me. It hurts. Like I internalize it a bit, and I feel that, there is something that I could do to reverse that. Back in the day, Macon was, up and booming. We have business here, businesses everywhere. People own houses. People are living a good life. And, when the economy shifts, jobs left Macon, and that left a lot of, our people jobless. So just the economy here went down. And I see the effects of it as I've grown up and become an adult, and is more aware of what's going on. And, I just see, everyone that's like my family, like how could we live like this, so there has to be another way. There has to be a solution to it. And, everything that Ulu is about is a part of that solution. So that's really why, I'm a part of this organization.
Well, thank you so much for that answer. Yeah, and it really hits home for me what you've shared in terms of wanting to take action and to be involved with an initiative, with a plan that is action-oriented and that is focused on getting results. I really appreciate your observation around that. So, yeah. So, Sister Shay, did you have something else that you wanted to ask Sister Juanisha to share?
Sure. I think for the members on the line, and thank you for that, Juanisha. Thank you for being so open and transparent, because the reason for the call, as you know, we talked about it already, is to share Uplifting Us with everyone who's listening. But I think when a member calls on, I did the same thing you did. When you found out about it, you vetted it, you thought about how it fit into your life, and you became a member. So listening to you, it just, makes me think about when I saw and I heard, what was being proposed and how excited I was about it. So, for all the members on the line, I'm sure everyone is thinking about when they decided to join Ulu, what it was about Uplifting Us, or, when they heard that call, how did it affect them? So I appreciate you just taking the time to take us through that. But on a I think we have about 15 minutes up. I want to know, as far as the membership committee, I think it's really important that as we grow Ulu, that more and more people are clear about what it means to have ownership. And I think being a part of the membership committee, business development committee, the real estate committee, elder committee, and then we have media and communications. Being a part of one of these committees, or really just being involved, is really, really important. I think it changes the way you view ownership, even in Ulu. Talk about that. As far as, like you said, your experience and being on the membership committee, how important it is to step closer and actually serve the co-op in that way.
Yes, and that's another thing, too, being able to actually be a part of an organization, actually, put in what I have to offer, what my thoughts are and what my ideas are. I can actually, utilize that and actually put it towards something, and that has been something that's done great wonders for me. It's one thing to just, be a part of an organization and just kind of sit back and listen, but to actually be active members that you're a member owner. You have ownership in it, and what you do, what your actions are, determine what the future of the organization will be. And it's a great feeling. It definitely another level of responsibility for myself, my family, and my community. And it has been, such a great experience. Is definitely something that, it requires work, but it is work that definitely needs to be done, and I would do it all day, every day. And, and definitely, having that ownership it definitely just drives me more and more to want to do more and want to tell other people about Uplifting Us. And the future of Ulu is so much more clear by me being active and knowing that, we're going to move forward because I'm moving forward. I'm taking action. I'm working with, my family and all the other members in Ulu to make sure that, we do what we're set out to do.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Yes, if I could just say, I really appreciate, Sister Juanisha, what you said about working and putting out the effort and the work. I think that is so vital, and I just want you to know how much you and other members, such as yourself, who have stepped up to take an active role and to put their shoulders to the wheel and to take on pieces of the actual work, how meaningful that is in playing a role to really be a part of bringing into fruition the goals that ULU has. So I just want to give you a shout out for that and let you know how much it's appreciated.
Thank you. Thank y'all for letting me be a part of it.
Mm-hmm. And don't forget, this is recorded and archived, so it would be awesome if you could send that out, to some of the people that you talked to about ULU. They can hear your, your genuine responses. That would be cool.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I definitely will.
All right. Well, good. Well, thank you for being on. And again, family, this is just the beginning of the member spotlight. And, those members who are on, if you're in the ULU community, stop by Sister Juanisha's page and say hello. Let her know that you heard her on the call, and let her know how much you appreciate her stepping up to start this part of the 10 o'clock ULU call that we, going forward until we make any other changes, that member spotlight is going to be open for brothers and sisters to come on and just engage with us. We are almost at the top of the hour, and just this conversation has really warmed my heart. I mean, it's always good that we're on and we're talking about us lifting us and just giving more life, to ULU.
You do have a call.
And I don't know, you're right on time, DJ. I don't know if we have somebody holding. Okay, caller.
Yes, we've got 8912. 8912. Your line is open.
Yes, this is Brother Thurman from Richmond, ULU member. Thank you all so much for the call, both hours. And in this second hour, the sisters in the member spotlight is just adding such some more additional inspiration to the call, and it needs to be continued. It's just beautiful flow, and it has touched my heart also, and that's just what I wanted to say. And thank you all for the call.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Brother Thurman. That's another one of our Us Lifting Us board members. And before we close out, we have a couple of minutes, and I just want everybody to really sit back and think about the conversation that you're listening to. We are literally bombarded with negative images, bad news, hurtful, very, very hurtful things, like Juanisha said, that we internalize about our family overall. And then you sit back and you think about the fact that we're having this type of conversation around a solution that actually already exists. Take that in and really, really think about what that means as far as the opportunity and what we really have to do as responsible, righteous adults. We'll be handing this world down. We'll be leaving, and we have to think about what it is that we're leaving. We have the opportunity to actually, like the mission says, hand down not only currency or money. I mean, that's important, the money part of it, but handing down the machinery, right, for a new day for our children and for our children's children. So it's not a dream. This is every Thursday that we're on having this discussion around Us Lifting Us. I again want to thank Sister Nanana for hosting the call with me. Your words are always so insightful and so clear. I'm sure everyone appreciates that. And again, to everyone that contributed to the call, and again to Juanisha for being our first member for the member spotlight. Just as FYI, on the 21st and 22nd of this month, there is the Malcolm X Festival here in Atlanta, in the West End area of Atlanta, and Ulu will definitely be representing. Members, if you are in the Atlanta area or you can make it down for the Malcolm X Festival, we will be having our smaller gathering. Ulu will be represented out there, and we want you to come out and have some fun with your family like they did last weekend at the Pan-African Festival down in Macon. And, of course, we're going to be selling our Ulu T-shirts and talking to individuals who are interested in membership or just interested in learning more about Us Lifting Us. So this is an opportunity for you to give some energy to our representation out there. You can give us a call at 404-592-2780. Again, that's 404-592-2780. And if you have any questions, also you can email us at info@usliftingus.com. Again, info@usliftingus.com for more details about that event. And that's the Malcolm X Festival. It is Saturday and Sunday coming up this month. I think that's the 21st and 22nd. So give us a call on that. We definitely want to see you and, just fellowship with you at the park. Sister Nana, would you mind closing us out?
Well, thank you for that opportunity. Thank you. Yes, I would say in closing that I would encourage everyone who's listening to remember that we are the real wealth. It is our creativity. It is our ingenuity. It is our connection with spirit. It is our soul and our being that brings about all of what we encompass and that we indicate that is valuable. And so we as a people, we are the real wealth. And let us not be confused or ever forget about that. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you. That's a wonderful point to end on. That's the reason for all of this. So we thank you. Again, thank you to Brother DJ and Baba Hakima for hosting the first hour. And again, we will be here next Thursday, same time. We start off at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern for our first hour, and then we follow on 10 o'clock, and we'll end it up with a member spotlight. Be sure, if this is your first time hearing or if you have any questions, to engage with us, and go ahead and click join on our website. Pay your $50 membership and go ahead and fill out your application. We look forward to you becoming a part of Us Lifting Us.